The doom and gloom has set in.
Yeah, predictably. No shock really. We talked about this game at length before it happened. It probably turned out worse than we expected. I think the interesting thing about the whole thing now is there's kind of a number of dimensions. So there's the game itself, which has been beaten to death as to what went wrong and what went right, the kick chase, the defense, and you can unpack all that again, but to wear your brain out. The interesting thing for me is that I was kind of shocked after the game of where Andy Farrell came from. I thought his talk of the team's lack of intent in the first half, I thought that was kind of shocking. And I know it was referred to, but like it's almost saying like the lads weren't up for this. And I'm actually shocked to hear that because everybody knew we came off a dodgy autumn. It's just at best described a dodgy autumn, not at all, not a happy camp. We tailed off badly in the Six Nations at the end last year. So the trajectory of the team was not good. And we all acknowledged that. I think everyone acknowledged it. We thought this one would come out and it was going to be a tough one away from home on a Thursday night, but we'd have our rattle at them. We'd show up and we'd play. And the coach after says, well, we weren't up for it. And I thought that was pretty shocking. And I don't know how to process that because why wouldn't they be up for it? You know, this is it. Like this was the chance to maybe change the whole momentum around the team. They could have won in Paris last Thursday night, or even if they'd had a big performance, you know, a one-score game, went down to the wire, you could have taken something out of it. But if that was the excuse, is that in the first half we weren't up for it, and the second half, I think we got a lot of kudos that we maybe didn't deserve, if I'm being honest. To be fair to the bench, I thought they did a good job and they came on, they changed the energy, they lifted the game a bit. But I think at that stage, typically France had backed off their intensity on defense. Some of the carries we got in that kind of a purple patch where we got our two tries, I think um, I think if we wouldn't have got those in the first half, France were just not giving up that yardage, but they backed off. Typical French, games in the bag. Thursday night, we're home free here. And then there must have been a message sent in at some point because they ratcheted up again in the last 10, 15 minutes, and you saw the results of that. So I'm not trying to take away from the bench. I thought they did a good job. I think a lot of them have made a strong case of being included against Italy. And when you see the dearth of talent that's available, um, when you see the A game, the team being absolutely butchered last weekend, his probably options are if guys come back from injury, like Furlong, he's going to be back in, but maybe some of the bench guys, but nobody on Thorne Park with their hand up. So it's in a bit of a tight spot in that. But I have to go back to the lack of intent. I just don't know how that can happen at this level. That you would pull on a green shirt and after a coach say, lads, you weren't up for it. I just think that's shocking.
Yeah. And the thing is, it was quite a considered line on Farrell's part. I mean, you would know better than I, but I mean, he has a bit of time as he makes his way down from the coach's box to do media to think, right, what am I going to say to this lot? And it didn't just slip out because if you remember, there was almost like a dramatic pause to an extent because he said, I never thought I would say this about an Irish team. Like he let that, he almost gave it the build up. I never thought I'd say this about an Irish team. And then he gave the intent line. So I'd say pretty deliberate on his part.
Yeah, it's a kind of an abdication in some ways that, you know, I don't know what happened here, but it wasn't. I didn't have anything to do with it. Like these lads just didn't show up for me. And I thought it was a strange message to send out first game of the championship. So I want what the players make of that. Um, so I have to say, like, I'm still kind of trying to process it because I'm trying to find a way where there was an upside to throwing that out there. I mean, we did play badly, no question. But was the perfect game plan they had put together on offense and defense? Had we the perfect selection? Uh, what was our execution like? You know, there was none of that. It was just this is just really guys didn't show up tonight. And I think how can you say that? These are full-time professionals, highly paid. They've had the best preparation, you know, been in camp, and the last piece of jigsaw is they don't show up. I mean, I just thought that was crazy. So I don't know if he gets a pass on that. Like, maybe, and I think that kind of the new narrative now around the game, which is kind of striking, is that if you read all the pieces in the last couple of days, it's all about let's go back to root and branch. It's all David Humphrey's problem now. Dave's got to fix this. Like our pathways aren't working for us. Our under 20s aren't great, as good as they were. We're not bringing guys through. And even, you know, today in the Independent, it was about the project players or not have blown up in our face, you know. So suddenly, this is not Andy Farrell's problem anymore. It's David Humphrey's problem.
Mm.
All I'd say is, when I coached Ireland and we used to go to Paris in my day back in the early noughties with trepidation, that was a very good French team. And we took a couple of hidings. I don't remember anybody coming out the following week and saying that was the fault of the RFU. I know I was getting 2 barrels from everybody, is not getting the job done. And I thought that was okay. It was my job and I didn't get it done. Although it was a tough job. But suddenly we're pivoting away here, that we're writing off this team now, and it's a no root and branch review of Irish rugby. So I just think, where have we gone in a matter of a couple of months from, a team that we thought maybe could pull things around again, to now the whole system has fallen apart?
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's because Farrell has a huge amount of credit in the bank because of the job he did, not least in the build up to 23 across 22. So there's a sense, well, look, this guy's not the problem. Very obviously he's not the problem. The players have been effusive about him, above and beyond the normal, above and beyond what you have to be when you're talking publicly. And obviously the Lions was successful. So I think there's a sense of, well, you can't just suddenly turn around now and say, God, that Farrell's rubbish. And equally, I think there's a recognition that the team is just aging before our eyes quite rapidly, be that because of miles on the legs in some cases, or just their actual ages. And who can Farrell pick? It's not like we have 6 or 7 or 8 kind of cause du jours who you're saying, why, how is Farrell ignoring this guy? He's tearing it up in Europe, he's tearing it up in the URC. Nobody's pointing to the saviours coming over the hill. And so that's why I think the conversation has kind of gone from spotlight on Farrell, no, don't think so. Spotlight on selection issues, don't think so. Actually, there's no one. And then that's where you get to, well, this is a structural issue. So I think that's kind of how the conversation has evolved.